Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So today we get to talk about one of my favorite anti-boutique labels, Visual Vengeance. They've sent over, well, both of their November releases, but today we are talking about spine number 13. We have Scream Queen, a Linnea Quigley film. And this is from 1998/2002, which we'll talk about a little bit as we go on here. But this was considered a lost Linnea Quigley film. And that's actually the second lost film of hers that Visual Vengeance has brought to home video for the first time. So pretty darn cool. But let's talk about this one. Before we do, if you have a quick second, go and hit that like button down below if you like these types of videos. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into my Blu-ray review of Scream Queen. Alright, so let's do an unboxing here just so you guys get a full showcase of what Visual Vengeance is offering. And this cover art is beautiful. I love it. There is the back of the slipcover, and again, spine number 13. And then we'll take the slipcover off to reveal the other unique art on this, or original art. That looks really great as well. And again, on the back, and then we'll open it up. And you can see first the disc art, which matches the slipcover. We have the stickers, like Visual Vengeance always includes. But what's unique about this one is this little card right here. 4-star video, 99-cent rentals every Wednesday. I love this. This is actually, if I'm not mistaken, oh, I love that too. Large selection of adult videos is what the little sticker on it says. But that's really cool. This is actually the second rental card, fake rental card that I've gotten from Visual Vengeance in their releases. So that's really cool. And then on the inside, we have the poster, as we always do. And this one I'll show because it's a little bit different. It is a Linnea Quigley poster. And here you go. This is one of the production stills that they show in the Blu-ray. So yeah, there's that included. And then we do get a booklet in here as well. This is a 6-page folding booklet. This is from, I forget the guy's name. He's from that Wang Chop place, website, whatever. Tony Strauss, that's who it is. And he does some of the commentary tracks sometimes, but not on this one, surprisingly. But he does have that, the new or essay on there, I guess we'll call it. And then my favorite part, the way that mine always live, I'm going to flip this around real quick, because on the back side, of course, we have reversible cover art. And this time it is the original home video release, which is actually kind of interesting, which I'll talk about when I get to the special features a little bit. But yeah, so this is the reversible cover art on it. But I think this thing looks amazing. Again, it's what they do the best, I would argue, is their packaging. So great job by Visual Vengeance. All right, so let's talk about the movie itself. So Scream Queen was shot in 1998, and then it kind of was paused for a while, but eventually was released in 2002 by its producer, who, if you are a big low-budget horror fan, you might recognize, David Sterling of Sterling Entertainment. That is the producer on this. And he released it in 2002 on home video. That said, Brad Sykes talks about in the special features how he's never seen a copy of it on home media, and he never has known anyone who's actually had a copy. So if it was really released, it was done in a very limited fashion. So this is really the first wide release, which is why they consider it a lost Linnea Quigley film. That said, we are following Linnea Quigley's character. She plays Militia, and she's basically playing like a fantasy version of herself, or a fictionalized version of herself, because she is playing a Scream Queen in this movie. And of course, she is kind of, you know, one of the greats when it comes to Scream Queens.
I'm not the one who insisted the movie be titled Scream Queen.
Oh God, that's because I am a Scream Queen!
And this is a very meta movie, which it's released at the end of the 1990s, which is kind of that era for meta horror, and it very much played into that. They talk about in the special features how this was very unique for its time, but maybe in like the low budget sphere, but really this kind of just screams to me that era, thanks to movies like Scream or Wes Craven's A New Nightmare, things like that. And then obviously picking up from there, Urban Legend and so on. So this one feels very much of its time to me in terms of what it's doing. We are following this film crew as they're trying to shoot this low budget shot on video horror film. Well, at the beginning of the movie, Linnea Quigley's character, Militia, kind of blows up because things are not professional enough, and so she quits.
Ouch! God damn it! Amateurs! I am working with amateurs! This would not happen on a Fred Olen Wright film.
but she ends up driving off and dies in this explosion. And so then we pick up months later or whatever, and the cast is all sent letters. Each of them get a letter, say, come to this house at this time on this date. They all do. It's the cast, or the cast and the crew. They all do. And someone is obviously going to be there. And that's when it kind of turns into the Agatha Christie story, And Then There Were None, where you're trying to figure out like what's going on here. Except in this case, the mystery of this is so... it's kind of non-existent. It's very obvious what's going on. So you're really watching it just for kind of the kills and the whole kind of fun idea behind this meta shot on video, low budget horror film from the late 90s. So Scream Queen was an interesting one to me because it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I still had a really good time with this one. I found it interesting throughout the entirety of the film. Some of these releases I do find a little bit too slow, as I've talked about in those reviews, but this one kind of kept my attention the entire time. And it's interesting because you don't actually get to the mansion where all the stuff happens until about the 30-minute mark, almost halfway through the film. And so that's pretty deep into this, but they do enough with the first half that keeps things interesting. And then I just wanted to know where things were going to go from there, even though, again, the mystery aspects of this are very light. It's very obvious what's going on here, but I think it was fun to see. And there are some kind of interesting kills in this. They do a good job with the special effects. One of the actors in this is actually also the special effects guy. He's playing the special effects person in the movie, and he's the special effects guy on the film. So again, very meta, which is just fun to watch. I love movies like that. He does a really great job with his effects work. So I loved that aspect of it quite a lot. The acting in this one is about what you'd expect. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Linnea Quigley does a pretty decent job, but even her, there are some moments in this where I'm like, man, didn't we have a better take for that shot? There's just some scenes that I feel like she's doing the best she can, but the script doesn't help at all. And so, yeah, so the acting on this one, it's not why you're watching this, right? Like, you're just watching it for the aesthetic of the whole thing, the kind of silly story behind it, and the special effects. I think they do a nice job with at least the practical effects. There are some like lightning and thunder sound effects that they use in this, which are just ludicrous and funny, but I mean, that's just all part of the appeal with this one.
What time is crew call?
Crew call?
There is actually a music video that they shot after filming this about a month later, and it's to the tune of These Boots Were Made for Walking, but it's This Chainsaw's Made for Cutting, and it is hilarious. They actually have it in the movie itself, kind of right at the beginning, a very small clip of it, and it's so funny.
This chainsaw's made for cutting, and that's just what I'll do. One of these days this chainsaw's gonna cut a hole in you.
There is a really cool sequence in here. It's actually like this almost like necklace thing, but it's much bigger, and it has razors on it, and it's brutal. Like, it's a really cool idea that I would love to see kind of done again, but maybe in a bigger format, a larger scale, because I thought that was a really cool kill. But this one is a weird one because it's not good. Most people are not going to like this one, but I found something very appealing about this movie as I was watching through it. It's just kind of the charm of that low budget shot on video horror that this really encapsulates. I think it does a really nice job of that. And so while most people are just going to watch it and be like, why did I waste my time? If you have kind of the same taste as I do, maybe you might get a kick out of this one. I don't think it's not as bad as some of the other Visual Vengeance releases I've watched. So it's not one of those like so bad it's great, but it's not good either. It definitely falls more toward the latter, but it doesn't go over the top like something like Lichen Colony did, for example. But I enjoyed this one. So for what it is, I'm going to give Scream Queen from 1998/2002 2 out of 5 stars. Let's talk about the AV side of the disc. And as usual, there's not a ton to talk about here. Visual Vengeance is doing the best that they can with what they're given. Unfortunately, on the audio side, that's where this one really lost me, because there are quite a handful of moments where I just simply could not hear what the characters were saying. It's either music that's kind of overtaking it, sound effects that are overtaking it, whatever it is, they're just looking away from the microphone. And because of that, they're automatically quieter, and nothing is done to lift that, to elevate that audio at all in those moments. And so, unfortunately, there were just moments where I lost the audio. I actually contemplated putting on the subtitles because I just was losing some of it. So it doesn't ruin the film because, again, the script isn't that great anyway, but you want to hear what the characters are saying. Like, that's why you're watching the movie. And so that part was disappointing. Definitely the worst of the audio that I've experienced, I think, so far from these releases. But on the visual side, I mean, it's totally fine. Again, this is a shot-on-video movie from the late 90s. It's done with very cheap cameras. Doesn't look good. Just because it's on Blu-ray is not really going to enhance that very much at all. This looks pretty bad. I would say, though, that I don't really lose a lot of the action that's going on screen. It's muddy, it's not sharp at all, and it's just doesn't look very good. But again, if you're a Visual Vengeance fan, that's just kind of what you come to expect, like I am. And so you roll with the punches on these. This one does say it was a director-approved 480p SD master from the original tape elements. So it is what it is. This is going to be the best this thing will ever look. So I think the AV side is okay. The audio was definitely disappointing to me, though. Moving over to the special features on this, the first thing I'll talk about is that there is a producer's cut of this film, and it adds about 5 minutes or so to the runtime. And basically all it does, at least from what I was able to tell, is that it adds about a 5-minute scene toward the beginning of the movie that is supposed to be clips from the unfinished horror film that they were trying to make in the movie. But basically all it does is add some nudity to the film, which is otherwise, surprisingly, lacking in this one, especially with Linnea Quigley in it. The only way you get nudity in this film is with the producer's cut. Now, is it necessary? Absolutely not. And Brad Sykes actually hates that. It's actually scenes from another low-budget shot-on-video horror film that they're throwing in here. And so he talks about how he hates when independent films do that. But yeah, it adds absolutely nothing other than nudity. But it's cool that they have both cuts on there. Outside of that, there is the commentary track with the writer-director, Brad Sykes. Again, I'm not a commentary track guy. I did not listen to that one. But there is a really great special feature on here. It's called Once Upon a Time in Horrorwood. And this is a behind-the-scenes... Not really behind the scenes. This is just an interview with the director on the making of. And honestly, this is one of my favorite making of segments that Visual Vengeance has put out. I thought it was really cool because Sykes was not just saying, oh, everyone was great to work with. Now, he did say Linnea Quigley is great to work with, which the more I watch of Visual Vengeance, the more I love Quigley because nobody has ever had a negative thing to say about her. She sounds like just an amazing human being and such a great professional, which is so cool. And Brad Sykes is the exact same. He just praises how great she was to work with. And she has an interview on here as well where she talks about the making of, and she's just great in that also. But he doesn't just say everyone was great. He talks about the issues he had on this, and he actually paints David Sterling in kind of a negative light, saying he was throwing some temper tantrums on there because he was losing control of the film. And so that was interesting that made it on there, along with a couple of the actors, kind of being divas, for lack of a better word, and just kind of the problems he had on set, and then the problems in post-production. So I really loved this, and these always are interesting to me because they give just a deeper glimpse into this low-budget independent filmmaking world that was in the 80s and the 90s. And so I think these are so cool, but Sykes really just lets it all out there, and I loved this one. So I thought that was a great special feature. On top of that, there is an interview with the editor, and I already talked about the interview with Quigley, but the interview with the editor is only about 3 minutes long, and it's one of 3 different editors on there, but it sounds like this editor is the one who did most of the bulk of the work, but there are a couple other editors credited as well. And that's pretty much it. There's a behind-the-scenes image gallery for Linnea Quigley and the film itself, plus original scripts and a trailer on there too. But other than that, really, the video features are what I'm most interested in, and I think they do a really good job with this one. Again, the interview with the director is about 30 minutes, and it's great, so I really liked that. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention, and I guess I'll mention it now. Brad Sykes is a director who's done a ton of movies. The man has worked in the business for decades now, but but there's one reason that maybe some of my viewers, maybe some of you might know him from, and that's because he has a movie at the Dollar Tree from a couple years ago called Plaguers. This was also released by Wild Eye, if I'm not mistaken, and this is one that I now have to watch, because otherwise it was just kind of sitting in my collection. Never really was like gonna choose Plaguers to watch, but now I have to watch it just because I want to see what he's able to do years later. I guess like almost 20 years after the fact. And so, yeah, very interesting. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you have that movie, you might check it out just because it's part of Brad Sykes' filmography. So I thought that was cool. But anyway, the special features on this, I think, are really well done. Again, Visual Vengeance just does a great job with these on virtually every release. So Visual Vengeance once again preserves a Linnea Quigley film, which is always a good thing in my book. The movie itself, not great, but there's something here that I think is interesting. The aesthetic is excellent on this. Just that shot on video style, I love. The idea of the story with it being a meta horror film, but done in the independent style. The fact that it's a David Sterling production is interesting to me, who you might know from the Camp Blood series, which actually Brad Sykes directed the first 2 Camp Blood films as well, which I have not seen, so I have to do that now. But it's just a very popular and well-known, if you're into these types of films, production company. So kind of all those things just combined to make Scream Queen an interesting movie to me that I am very happy I spent the time with. So outside of the audio on this one, which I do think is definitely disappointing, I think the video's fine and the special features are great. So overall, I will give Scream Queen from Visual Vengeance 3 out of 5 stars. All right, so those were my thoughts on Scream Queen, which again was spine number 13 of the Visual Vengeance line. If you want to know what I thought of spine numbers 1 through 12, well, check out the playlist that will likely be linked somewhere in this video so you guys can check it out, because I have reviewed every Visual Vengeance release, excluding one, and that is spine number 14, The Wrong Door. This is what I will be reviewing next week. So definitely check back on the channel to see my thoughts on spine 14 of the Visual Vengeance line. But with that said, guys, if you enjoyed this one, go and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media. Books, movies, video games, graphic novels. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. And if you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. And I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.